Running now.
Bringing the traffic to our meetup group. So, how many of you guys have been to an OUX meetup event before? Yeah. Okay, about half. Okay, so for those who are just joining us, thank you. So we're here for the Data for Designers event with Amplitude. So we're working with Lex and Louis from Design and Data. So you're doing awesome. So just we're showing so that Lex, where are yours? Oh, she's hiding back there. So anyways, thank you so much for collaborating with us. So obviously our agenda today is 6:30. Everybody already came through the door, so we're going to kick off shortly. And we're going to wrap up starting at 8:30, and then the final we have to be out the door around 9 o'clock, right? So again, this is an event with Design and Data. So how many of you guys have been to Design and Data event before? But Louis and Lex have been doing Design Data for how long?
About a year and a half now.
Okay, cool. And they make great events. So we actually got started, I've known Louis for a while and I've known Lex for a while. We got started with Lex last year, back in November, I think. And how many of you guys were at the event at Patient Pop with Lex? Okay, cool. So a good chunk of you guys. So awesome. All right. So we're going to do a quick icebreaker. And I know a lot of you guys drove through traffic, and finding parking is always fun in Santa Monica. So we're going to do an icebreaker for 2 minutes. So the person to the left or right of you, maybe in a group of 2 or 3, you guys are going to ask each other 3 questions, right? And we're going to time it. Everybody has we all have 2 minutes. So what cities have you lived in? You guys are going to answer that with each other. And what's your favorite app? And number 3, forget about that, I took it out. So ignore number 3. So, I forgot to take it out. So the 2 questions are, what cities have you lived in and what's your favorite app and why? Okay, so just the person to the left or right of you, form a group of 2 to 3 people. Ready? 2 minutes. got to know each other a little bit more. Awesome. All right. So one other thing before we move on is our meetup group has a Slack channel. So if we have a specific Slack channel called Job Search Support, so it's to help with everybody with career advancement. We actually have a career advisory panel that we're going to announce soon. So it'll help people with different issues related to employment, education, and learning. So we're going to announce that soon. But if you guys want to sort of peer mentor each other, we have the leuxmeetup.com/Slack. Okay. All right, and I want to thank Amplitude and Black Tux, and then I want to introduce DJ from the Black Tux. He's going to talk about why you guys are here.
Talk a little bit about why you're here. Lex will have more info while you're here. But I thank everybody for coming to our Great San Marcos office. Like I said, with Black Tux, we help people show up for life's biggest moments. Let's feel like say that we own the moment. We produce and design our own suits and tuxedos, and then we help distribute those to the people that need them. We are hiring across the board on the tech team. We're hiring, let's see, data engineer, data analyst, designer, 2 back-end engineers, a senior researcher, a product manager, and I see something else I'm missing, but if I am, you go to blacktux.com/careers and check it out. I also would recommend you check out the blacktux.com/culture. We just created this culture book that was a big investment from both myself and the talent and people team who's sitting over there helping us run this event. So thank you guys. That will help you get a better understanding of our culture and what we're trying to do here. It's best to do it in your phone. In fact, it will look terrible on a screen larger than your phone. That's me too. But once again, thank you for coming. Lex is going to give a few details and logistics, and then Amity will come up and share their knowledge with us. But thanks again for coming, and we'll continue through.
Hi, I'm Lex. I did turn the air on. Yeah, so should be coming. Thank you for bearing with us on the space. We're really excited to host this event. So we appreciate everyone sitting in. We have some extra chairs over here and it's cooler on that side of the wall. If we get hot, just step over there and let me know if you need anything. The restrooms are here, right behind you, down that hallway. We are going to lock the front door at 8:30, so we'll all leave out the back. We'll leave you that way. It'll be really easy. Yeah. Or you can just live here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to speak for a second about, Noel touched on this, why this event exists, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about why I think it's so important. So, Louis and I have been doing design and data events, and we've noticed that there's a huge gap between what's available technologically around data and what people are actually employing in their day-to-day jobs. And that gap is even larger for non-technical folks, especially for designers. And so we've been seeing this huge opportunity for designers to use all the information that's being collected in their companies in their work, and like very little resources and education happening around that area. And Amplitude has done an extraordinary job with their tool. So out of all the tools that are out there, it's one of the easiest to use without having previous training in analytics. But since we know the Amplitude team thought like who better to actually explain how to use data to your work. So we have Ran Liu and Tarek here from Amplitude. They're both product designers there, which is very cool. They came down, moved on from the Bay Area to be with us tonight. And we're really excited to hear what they have to say. So, Brandon.
So hello LA. I came here for the weather. And apparently San Francisco for once is having better weather today. And I want to thank you again to the Black Pucks and LAUX to host us here. And as was just mentioned, my name is Wen, and I'm on the product design team at Amplitude. In case you're not familiar with Amplitude, we're a leading product intelligence platform that allows digital product teams to track and analyze their user behavior data to drive actionable product insights. Before I start to talk about data in front of a room of designers, I wanted to address the cute little elephant in the room. Why do we need data to design? And for the longest time, designers don't like data. We're not numbers people. We tend to think design and creativity is on the far opposite end as data and numbers. I can see where a lot of that is coming from. Like blindly being data-driven and designed to just move a metric is quite dangerous and scary. Yes, we can bombard our users with emails, and they'll most likely to come into your product and do the thing you want them to do, but is that the best user experience we can deliver? Probably not. So what we're talking about here is to be informed with data and not just be data-driven. Just think of data as an additional type of information you can use to help us better understand our users and make better design decisions. As designers and researchers, we're very familiar with qualitative feedbacks. They're great and they are essential to our design process, and you should keep doing those. And those give us rich information about our individual users, like their feelings, their motivations, their facial expressions, and most importantly, you get to ask why they do what they do, the reason behind their actions. So those are fantastic, but those are more time-consuming, if you will. You need to schedule time with a person on the call or bring them into to your office or in a lab setting. And you can only do that on a small sample size, like 5 to 20 people. On the other hand, data or analytics are a lot easier. Once you track data, they're there for you to use. You can use it as many times as you like. And you can think about that as what your users do in the wild. It aggregates all of your user actions in one place. So it's a lot easier for you to spot trends and patterns. So instead of thinking qualitative feedback and data as two separate entities, they actually go hand in hand together and they complement each other. When you have any sort of hypotheses or learnings you get from qualitative research, it's very necessary for us to validate it with data. Because we all know one of the biggest problems with user interview is what a user say doesn't necessarily mean that's what a user will do. That's why we train ourselves to ask open questions and don't lead in those sessions. So you see that all the time. You see that all the time in your dentist's office when they ask you how many times do you floss a day. And we see them in our user research as well. At Amplitude, we talk to a lot of churn users, and by the definition of churn, we mean there's no action. They did no activities in Amplitude for over a month. And when we talk to those users, one of them actually claimed, oh yeah, I'm kind of busy, so I'm using Amplitude every 2 weeks. So that's just one very simple example of the discrepancy. Very similarly, when you see trends from your data, it's very important to validate it with your validate it using qualitative methods as well. One of the research that we did is on this feature, we call it bulk edit. It's for you to make bulk changes to all of the charts that's on one dashboard. So based on data, it's good. Stay over here. Based on data, it looks really good. Like you see, people are engaging with the feature. So that's a good sign of a very useful feature, right? But not really. When we're actually talking to people, quite a few of them, not just one person, reported, oh no, I don't remember I've ever seen this feature at all. So our assumption for that is because this feature was at a very visible level, so people click around and they soon really quickly dismiss the feature as they realize it wasn't useful at that moment, or they're just checking it out, so that they don't even remember. Not even we show them the screenshot and say, you look like this, do you remember now? And they still don't remember. So, but that is a great opportunity for you to practice improv. You need to think of all the questions, good open-ended questions you can ask that user because you booked 30 minutes. Yeah, just to recap, qualitative data and quantitative data should always be used hand in hand to validate each other, and that completes the learning loop. So for a really long time, designers have been hating data. Just like data, creativity can't coexist at all. But what I'm here to propose today is for us to leave that impression behind us. Really, as designers, we should really leverage and utilize all the useful tools and methods that will help us to produce the best design ever. And data really amplifies design. And now I'm going to show you some real-world examples on how you may start using data with your design and during your design process. Believe it or not, data can be useful throughout your design process. It starts from research phase and how you selecting your participants for your qualitative studies to inform your actual design decisions and evaluate the effectiveness of your design. Let's start with user research. I don't know how all of you are selecting your research participants. It can probably be like some sort of open source data, you put it on the website, or it could be you holding a sign at Starbucks, or maybe selecting them based on some sort of marketing segment like age, geolocation, or job title. But isn't it better to select them based on their actual user behavior that they demonstrate in your product? So we can do that with behavior cohorting. So this is pretty much you define what's the condition, what's your recruiting criteria, and then you get to pull out a list of users that you can talk to. This screenshot is an example of the cohort I used when I was trying to design for amplitude taxonomy add-on. So I wanted to talk to people who contributed a lot of metadata to their events, to their own organizations. So these are the power users of my taxonomy. And if I want to talk to someone, talk to people on the other end, I can easily flip this condition to talk to people that use the feature but never contributed anything, to hear the stories from a totally different group of people. So this is a very simple cohort. It's just with one condition. And you can make it highly sophisticated and targeted by keep on adding more conditions to it. And one bonus of doing this is that you will find user behaviors that are extremely interesting. So as amplitude, what we strive for is for people to use data. They make analyses and they save those charts and dashboards so they can share it with their coworkers. But I found this cohort of people, there are over 2,000 people, and all of them are active amplitude users. Their engagement with amplitude demonstrated by the number of meaningful queries that they generated using the app. And they have not yet saved a single chart in the past 30 days. And there are over 2,000 people. And I hope you find it as fascinating as I do. But I can't wait to talk to some of them and really learn what are their workflows and why don't they save charts. Also, probably not a good idea to interrogate your user. Always be nice to your user. And even when you're designing for the actual UI, data can be informative as well. So this is a feature that I designed. It's called Releases. It's a place for product teams to document all of their product launches in one place, so you can describe what should in this feature release. And you can even gather a lot of your analyses and learnings all in one place. So there are a lot of metadata and just things we need to show on this page. I am afraid that the page will become extremely long, so you have to do some extreme scrolling to get to the point where you want to be. So I made the design decisions to make it very compact, have a side-by-side two-column view. And I even look at summary. Since that was a new feature, there wasn't any data associated with it. So I look at another type of event description. There's another description in Amplitude. There are the descriptions for events and their data. And they are on average about 84 characters long. So the design would probably hold up. This box holds like way more than 84 characters. But when we launched it, we quickly discovered, no, it doesn't. It's very delightful for us to see that our users actually really embrace this description here. We repeatedly saw long-form descriptions being added to the product with bullet lists and links and shoutouts all in one. So apparently the design failed here, but the good thing is now I have data. I bet the next iteration this is going to be fixed. And now, so you learn from your user research, and you generated a lot of hypotheses, and you go back to your drawing board, you design those, and then your talented product team ship the feature. And now what? Traditionally, our process stopped here, and there's like nothing but silence after that. Now this is really sad because you know your design is out in the world, but is your design working? Are you driving the user behavior? Is your design driving the type of user behavior that you are trying to get? So we don't know. If you are not measuring your design after your design is launched, you're missing a huge opportunity to learn from your user and to validate your design hypotheses. And you're missing out a chance to refine your design intuition as well. What the process should look like is this. You measure your design, and chances are, once you look at the data, you immediately become your creative self, and you started to think about all the ways that you could optimize your design, new hypotheses to test with qualitative research. And then suddenly the learn, build, silence process becomes this learn, build, measure loop. And the good thing is, as you go through this loop, your product experience gets better and better, and so is your design intuition. Because you started to learn what's working, what's not working. And that's how you become Steve Jobs. One way to actually, the most obvious way, simplest way to measure your user engagement is to just measure the engagement with the key actions of your feature. They're just simply the percentage of your active users who has used that feature over time. And in this example, these are 4 releases, as you've seen earlier. So about 1/3, like 30% of our orgs are using releases. So that's probably about what we expected, because that's for all the organizations. And for a new feature, 30% is okay. One way of making that more informative for you is you can start to segment your users based on what user group they're in. And the blue line is still the same. The organization has used releases. And the red line on top is our enterprise organization. So now we have a much higher adoption rate for enterprise organization, which is great because we designed it for, we optimized it for enterprise organization. So as you see, as you starting to segment out to smaller user groups and compare their behaviors between each other, and you start getting more insights into how users are using your design. One thing to note here is whenever people make with measuring user engagement is that they think we should always try to drive for more engagement, but that's not necessarily true. So we have this analysis in amplitude. It's called an engagement matrix. It's pretty much a matrix. It plots all your data into this 2x2 grid, and it's okay. You don't have to read the text. The idea is for each dot is a feature, and the x-axis is the number of users that's using this feature from nobody to everybody. And the y-axis is how many times each user uses that feature from 0 to a lot of times. So it's very easy to know that up and to the right it must be good. And they're true. So those are your most popular features in your product. They're used by a lot of people a lot of times. So they're good. But some successful features can actually belong to all the other quadrants as well. Let's look at the area below the most popular features. So those are the features that are used by a lot of people, but not as many times as those most popular. One of the examples of a successful feature that might fall in this region is technology. Is a feature that we call team spaces for people to join a team space. A team space is an area that a team of people can share their learnings and content together with each other in a small setting. Just think of it as a Slack channel. So you don't broadcast your learnings with your entire company. You share it with your group of friends, with people who know what these things are. We do want people to join them, and they did. So a lot of people have joined a team space. But like you can only work on so many different projects and you change teams probably not that often. So we don't expect people to join team spaces all the time. So that this feature makes sense to belong in this quadrant. And similarly for this quadrant is your typical power user features. They're not adopted by a lot of people. They're only used by a small group of folks, but they use it repeatedly. And that's a strong value signal that they're finding value in that feature. One of the examples here is we have a session length distribution analysis. And not everybody would have the time, or not every word wanted to care about sessions. They're very granular. But for the people and organizations too, they come back and repeatedly making analyses like this. So that feature belongs to the power feature. And what's left here gets a little bit tricky. So those are normally the features that needs your attention. They're not adopted by a lot of people nor being used a lot. But there are some features that just belong here. For example, those are your typical admin settings, like SSO. You probably only have one person. You only need one person to set it up, and hopefully they set it up and then call it a day. They don't have to set it over and over. So accept those admin setting type of feature, and you really want to take a deeper look for the feature that's here, and decide what's driving, what's making them here, and why isn't it getting more adoption. In addition to measuring user engagement, you can also measuring your design success by building what we call a feature funnel or ideal funnel. Funnels are really common in like marketing or e-commerce design. You probably see adding to cart and checkout funnel, but it doesn't. It's not limited to those fields. You can build a feature funnel for almost any feature, because as designers, as you're designing for things, you probably have a goal in mind. Like you have a user behavior that you want to drive with your design. And that is your ideal journey, which translates perfectly into an ideal feature funnel. So this chart is clear. This is for team space again. So we actually did really well. Almost half of the people who will join the space, and they'll look at all the wonderful content that's super relevant and super interesting to them. And then they click into it and start exploring a little bit more by tweaking the chart. Some other people don't. So this is ideal. We're doing pretty well, but we still see there's a huge drop-off at the last step. And that's where the fiction is for that feature. And what you can do is easily export a cohort. You can either reach out to them in person, or plot that cohort into all of your follow-up analysis that you're doing for follow-up. So this is one simple way to measure the effectiveness of your design. It's very high level. It gives you a snapshot of how effective or how your feature is doing right now. But it's really hard for you to learn anything, especially for people who didn't take the habit path. Like, what did they do? And what makes them not read the chart? So one way to do that is to plot all of your, like, all the actions, all the user journeys that users take all in one place. And we, at amplitude, we call it the task finder. And it's okay. I am overwhelmed by this as well. And we all are. This is just to show you how convoluted and complicated user behaviors are in the wild. It shows you all the top user paths, like what paths your users are more likely to take after a certain starting point or before a ending point. In this case, it's team space. I want to see what people do once they join a space. Anyone wants to guess what's the first thing people would do? According to this chart, what people would do is to hover on the user profile picture on the far right on the top, with all of those big headers, call to actions, empty state, and like big space in the middle for relevant and interesting content. People hover on the tiny bubble that has their friend's picture. And based on this chart, they hovered and hovered and hovered and hovered. So fascinating. This is the things you learn with amplitude, and that's what makes our jobs very fun. That's a lot of stuff. And just to quickly recap, as a designer, you should really use data all of the time. And you can use it to better select more relevant user research participants. You can inform your design decisions so your design handles messy and outliers in the data more gracefully than mine. And you can also use it to evaluate your design success. And hopefully there's something here that sparks something in you and make you want to start incorporating more data in your design process. And just one more thing. Really celebrate your design wins and share your learnings with your team. And you can't just do analytics alone by yourself in a vacuum. You have to get your team on board. So wins are celebrated. That's how you create momentum. And that's how you transform your team and start building a more data-informed culture. And it's really important to get all of your friends on board. And with that, I want to thank you for your time, and hopefully this is helpful and will inspire you to use more data. And I'd love to stay in touch and see what you guys learned from using data. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Wasn't that great? Who's inspired?
Me.
Yay! Yes. Meredith's inspired. She's so inspired. She works at Now we're going to have Tarek. Tarek's going to give us a study there. About data and design. Tarek's pretty famous in Amplitude. I went to their conference and he spoke right after or before the head of product was like huge design rock star.
We couldn't find an MC, so they asked me to do it. I tell tons on Slack. I don't know why I would do it.
I think maybe after your presentation we'll do a couple questions.
That would be great.
You guys can think about what your questions are. Is one of your questions to be, how do I get my team off Google Analytics? I think it's really simple. I
just wanted to.
There's still some more food over here. And drinks. Oh yeah. Who has a question for Rand? Well, let's do one question right now. Jamie.
The question I had is like, I really like that last chart that people are like hovering, and those are what they're looking for, which, they happen to people who are using the same product. I'm curious like how that informs design systems. Like my instinct when I see it is like maybe that needs to be more confident, that's accessible to people who use that and how they're going to implement this software. So I'm just kind of curious how that informs the next.
Yeah, so one of the inspirations like why we designed the Team Spaces feature is that we believe if you see familiar faces, it will make you feel safer and more likely to explore an amplitude. So that sort of validated our assumptions there. And what we'll do is that's an interesting graph that's not very helpful yet for us to make design decisions. Like, it's probably a little early to just make people's pictures more bigger and more prominent. So we'll probably dig in more and make more analyses to see exactly what other people who who dropped off has been doing. And we're probably going to talk to a lot of them to get the qualitative side of things.
Okay, wait, sorry, hold the rest of the questions. Let's give it up for Tarek.
Thank you guys all for being here. I'm super excited to be here and talk about kind of what we've seen and what we learned. Rand really set up the talk to really, I assume everybody's convinced of the power of data now, and so I can walk through an example of how we use amplitude and amplitude to build amplitude, a real actual case study of how this actually works. So she's really set it up nicely. And so I'm going to talk about how we redesigned the navigation. My name is Tarek. I'm a designer at Amplitude. I was lucky to be the first designer there where back when we definitely didn't know what we were doing. Now we know a bit more of what we're doing. You can find me on Twitter, and I made that really big because I really want people to actually ask questions after this event and interact with us. My Twitter is full of really great hot takes like this. But in reality, what you'll find with anyone in Amplitude, when you interact with them, if anybody here knows John Cutler, he's kind of a big voice in the product space, and we're really trying to be, as a company, just really educating others about how data can really power a lot of the teams out in the world. In fact, the Bay Area happens to have probably the most data meetups of any space. Any tech city in the world. And so if we want to really bring that power to everybody else, we'll really need to kind of educate everyone. So please reach out and talk about it. One other reason I think it's so powerful, especially for designers, is I really do think product analytics in particular will be taught in design school in the future. Just like today, we're taught so many ways of collecting qualitative feedback. You're taught user research questions. You're taught about how not to ask directed questions and be more open-ended. Similarly, I really think in the future we'll be talking the same about quantitative data as well, and ways to really empower your work through that. And so I'm going to talk about how we did our navigation project, and along the way we're going to try to show tips, lessons, and I'll kind of review them at the end of how we actually do it on a day-to-day basis, how data is actually used. Kind of as Rand mentioned, data can really be used all throughout the process. I like to say, the ABCs of selling is always be closing. There should be one for analytics. It's always be cohorting, always be computing. Maybe we get jackets or something like that. But it's true, and hopefully this presentation will show you all the different touch points. So this is what Amplitude used to look like, and we took this navigation and we built it out to be something like this. So spoiler alert, project finished. This is what it looks like today. And so the problem with navigation when you're trying to redesign it, the reality is nobody really likes redesign. I actually made a chart for you guys to really emphasize the point. Like really nobody likes it. And I hope this isn't too close to home because I know Snapchat is in LA, but it can actually have huge effects on business as well. Is this still too soon? But redesigns can actually really impact the bottom line. And so here I was trying to figure this out. This was still my problem to understand. I had experience with this before because I was actually the guy who redesigned the last redesign. And when we did that redesign, we got a lot of surprising feedback, a lot of strong feedback. We have customers around the world. We had this one customer from Germany. It's a wonderful country. Its people are often very direct with feedback. And so one of our customers set up a meeting with us to go through their presentation of why they didn't like Amplitude. These are real things. This is actually from their presentation. So that was a great 45 minutes. And what I really learned through that presentation, all the feedback was actually really spot on. We actually fixed half. There was more. They were like, what were you thinking? Why would you do this? It was great. But a lot of the feedback was true. What was really interesting is at the end of the presentation, we have our customer success rep on the call as well. They were asking, do you have any other questions for us? And someone on the team said, well, I really wish Amplitude did this thing. And the thing they described is something that we're actually known for. But they had no idea this feature existed that they were asking us for if it was on our roadmap. So what was interesting about that is it gave me an idea to actually look up the usage of the person that I was talking to after the call. I quickly realized that this person actually didn't use many of Amplitude's features. They used Amplitude a lot, but they used this as kind of just a dashboarding tool. And our big redesign was actually about everything outside of dashboard. So it kind of made sense that they were really pissed off. It's like amplitude was this one thing they wanted to work every day. Like, imagine if you went into your washroom in the morning and the sink worked differently, right? And the manufacturer can convince you it's better, but you just want to do that one thing with the sink. That's what it was for the user. And so that's the first lesson. I feel like I teach us the first lesson. Is that whenever you're looking at feedback, when you have data to power your user feedback, you can actually break down your analysis by the cohort to understand that feedback better, not to invalidate it, because whatever a user feels, it's true. That's their experience. That's their reality. But it can be colored better from things that they're not saying. Rand touched on this as well. And so feedback is best understood with context. Are they a new user? Are they a power user? Are they a resurrected user because they didn't use Amplitude for a while but they came back? What do they do? Do they finish in a persona that we know? What workflows are they using? How often do they come? And the best technique to use is actually, if you have a tool like Amplitude, is to build company cohorts that everybody subscribes to. So if you have a set of definitions, because everyone in an office is already using terms like power user, right? Why not try to capitalize that in a cohort that they can actually show the users we're calling power users? And so this can be very, very helpful. All right, back to nav. So we set our objective very early on. We said, all right, we're trying to make the Amplitude navigation hierarchy more pragmatic, aligned with the needs of the 50th K enterprise PM. What that means, that's Amplitude speak. We think in the world there'll be more than 50,000 PMs, and we want to build for the 50,000 PM, meaning we want to build for the long tail, we want to build for PMs that aren't sophisticated with data. And we also set out metrics. And what's interesting about this is that first sentence. We said that this project will be data validated rather than a data-led project. Now we are an analytics company, and I think it's important to call this out, that it's important to be upfront about how you're planning to measure and what data you'll consider. Even as an analytics company, we don't live and die by the metric. It's about being data informed, and we realized for something like this, the metric wasn't going to say what the clear winner was, unlike maybe an A/B test or something more self-contained. And so when you're upfront with the metrics, even before you set goals, you can scope the problem to the right data sets. You can be strategic about what you will and won't consider, and often that might actually be more important to say we won't use this data before you start working on something. And then you can choose how you're measuring. You can be more qualitative or more quantitative. Just like Rand said, it's about the feedback loop of teams working together to inform qualitative and qualitative informing quantitative. All right, so back to nav. Navigation is hard to measure, and it's not straightforward because users won't tell you if your navigation is bad. On top of that, it's hard to tell when something's actually really great as a navigation because you don't know what else it could be. It takes a lot of work to test ideas. You might have to design a lot of screens, or if you're actually coding it, you might actually have to refactor a lot of things. And then finally, navigation is really important, which makes it even more hard to measure because you want to get it right. And so just think about these three applications. For better or worse, they pretty much all have the same feature set now, right? They all have stories, they all have posts, they all have messages, and they obviously share different identities as products. But one of the key things in my mind is their navigation. The first thing you do when you open up each one of these applications, this is actually the first screen of each application. I found this on Google Images, so I don't know what the messages say. Johnson does not love me. The idea here is, right, this will open to a message screen versus Facebook opening to the feed versus Snapchat, even to this day, opening to the camera. Your navigation really identifies, what you're trying to do, what kind of trigger you're trying to map in the user's mind. So we sat together and we decided, what really is an effective navigation? And we came down to these three things. An effective nav is one where people know how, is one where how effectively one can do things. That's one way to measure it. Also, how effectively one can find and discover things. And then how effectively one can be encouraged to do what's best for their experience. Now, I'm happy to answer more questions about this later. I don't want to focus too much on this. But here's a quick example of that kind of in practice. If you look at Amazon, right, if their navigation is bad, they're literally losing dollars a minute. And so when you think about the first thing, how effectively can one do things? Well, that's pretty obvious. They've got lots of easy links, so one click away. If you actually scroll down, they now have these dash buttons where you can quickly reorder things you've ordered. how effectively one can find things. They've actually bought a bunch of search companies, which is why their search is one of the best things, one of their best features. And how effectively one can be encouraged to do what's best for their experience. Now, what's best for their experience is the business's experience, that's another topic, but you can see how they can order things in a way where they're encouraging you to be the type of user they think is better engaged, that they think is a better user. So Nav is also responsible for doing that as well. It's not just about getting to the right thing, it's also about helping people get to the thing they should be getting to. Alright, so how did we start testing? How did we start getting a baseline for how our Nav was? Well, we actually started with drunk people. We have this event in the Valley called drunk user testing. So we give a bunch of people free alcohol, and then they come and they test a bunch of products. And alcohol, what it does, I mean, it does a lot of things, but what it does with user testing is it makes people really honest and also confused. But I like to say it makes them kind of to their true confused self. And so, I wish I could show the video here, but it was hilarious. It was also painful. People had no idea what to do. And we quickly realized that we weren't actually good at doing any of these things. And so we started making a game plan, and this was our plan of attack. And and I'll explain why we did everything in each order. So first we started with high-level wireframes. Now, why start off with wireframes? We wanted to learn as fast as possible about intangibles. So this is actually not wireframes we built for what we thought would be the end solution, but instead wireframes of things of what if our product looked exactly like Google Drive? Or what if it looked exactly like Atlassian, Jira? We modeled it off other products just to get people's reaction, to see the mental model that they best associate with. And that really matches up with general great practices in UX. Learn what you don't know, show, don't tell, and get them to do, don't just ask them what they would do. So this was literally this is the actual wireframe we showed people. And we said, how would you find a chart your friend made? We actually gave them tasks to do. This is literally all we showed them. We asked them what they would do based on this. And since we had something material, it was actually kind of like what they were actually doing. And this is actually very similar to Google Drive. This is actually literally cloning, I think Google Drive or another product. This is cloning Jira. That was a hard day. Atlassian is a great company. Atlassian they actually did a lot of research to get to this UX. And as much as people make fun of Jira, their UX has really kind of up-leveled in the last 2 to 3 years. If anybody's actually used it up. We tried something that was a bit more centric around themes. This is literally the LinkedIn UX that we reskinned, etc., etc. And so we got people to actually pretend to do tasks on these just really high-level wireframes, not thinking that these would be the final product, but instead just trying to understand the mental models of users. And what's another interesting thing we did with these, we actually counted the number of times they did things, even though they didn't do things. And even though this isn't a data product, right? We're Amplitude, we're an analytics product that actually counts the number of times people do things. We did that on qualitative interviews. We went through the interviews and we actually just counted the number of times people did this. And this is actually a well-known UX technique. It's an old school technique called coding. Which is kind of confusing, but essentially back in the day, a lot of people would just watch, dozens of videos of people just count the number of times people did these things. So I highly recommend doing that even for qualitative research. Remember, we're not trying to reach statistical significance because we're not living and dying by the number in this case. We're just using it as more feedback. And what it does is it actually puts a lot of reality behind certain things you say. How many times do you come out of a qualitative interview and you say, we're finding most users are clicking here by accident. But the reality is that most 4 out of 7 or 7 out of 7, right? By coding things, even in prototype, even through qualitative, you can really find closer to the truth there and really use that as a way to get started. It's also a great way if you don't have analytics. I've said to so many designers who want analytics, start coding up your qualitative interviews, make charts from them, show them to your PM, show them to your head of engineering and say, hey look, we need Amplitude, we need some data tool, because look how helpful this was and we can do this at scale now. Alright, So we're doing the high-level wireframes. Who do we show them to? Just like Rand said, using Amplitude, we can actually reach out to new users. We can reach out to novice users who just tried Amplitude. We can reach out to power users. I honestly have given this presentation to so many teams, and designers tell me they don't know how they could do design or user research without Amplitude anymore, because how would they know who they're reaching out to? You could waste a lot of time, or you could get information just from one group of people. But by selecting who we can talk to, it really helps us understand the feedback we're getting. So just like Rand said, use data to select the right research participants. A lot of questions I've gotten from that is, well, isn't that kind of creepy? You have to understand as a company your relationship with your user. That is something as a society we're figuring out. You have to make clear what your relationship is with their data. And that is up to you and your experience. But when you reach out to them, they can be very straightforward. These are literally the emails we sent. Very casual. We sent a Calendly link. We weren't like, I've been looking at your data. We were just far more friendly about that. but when we talked to them, we actually talked about their usage. So it's not like we were trying to hide that from our experience with them. And especially for B2B companies, you'll be surprised how happy users are when you're actually looking at their data, because they want a better experience. For a lot of applications, these users rely on them every day. And so if you can make their data a bit better, their work a bit faster, they'll be happy to give you that. We did something else. We talked to our own users. We also talked to teams internally. And this is what I mean by a navigation is hard to measure, it's hard to design. You can't build as a navigation just what the users want. You have to build also the identity of your product. You have to build where you think the product should go. You want to build what you think it should play in the user's life. So we talked to a lot of internal teams when doing our redesign, but we also made a cross-functional brain trust team. And it included people from all across the org: sales engineering, account executives, customer success, marketing, and obviously PM and design. And we collected specific people that we reached out to talk to one-on-one, and we had them as a brain trust. We met with them every week, we showed them the research, and we got their opinion. Does this match up with where you think Amplitude is going? And this brings up another really important point, and my first joke of the night, which I like to preempt to get laugh. It's a good one, let me just take a second. Okay, if a chart falls in the woods, but there's no one to analyze it, does it make an insight? And the answer is no. Analytics is a team sport that needs to be done together. In reality, any data that only one person can query is used to manipulate others. Whether that's by design or not, really doesn't matter. If you can't follow up on data, if you're not actually validating what other people are saying or extending their research, you're going to be stuck in just taking somebody else's word. How many times as designers do we hear from the PM, well, these many people do this and that. And you ask them, well, how recent is that data? And they say, well, I got it from a data analyst weeks ago. And that data analyst might have gotten it months ago. And so you might have built a lot of features that could have changed those metrics. If you don't have access as a team, you can't succeed. And so the key is to have everyone on your product team use analytics regularly. No more insight mic drop where you're like, well, this is what the numbers tell us. And build off each other's work and expect it. I actually also even recommend holding monthly data jams where you just get in a room and you try to find an interesting insight. We do this at Amplitude, and I think the winner gets something. There's no music actually playing. I think I'm the only one who loves data jams. We just get in a room, and other teams are doing this. These are real tweets that I didn't fabricate. I was like so happy when I saw this. That people actually get in a room and look up Amplitude charts. That's the new nav right there. Whew, that feels good. Okay, and so it's really important to build off each other's work and work as a team for analytics. All right, so the next thing we did is really try to understand our information hierarchy and build a flow diagram. We literally made a spreadsheet of things, key actions that we think were in our product, and we made a set of questions to ask different types of users. We started, and this might get a little uncomfortable for some people, we started actually making predictions of how much level of access we wanted to change. So the delta. We found, for example, finding relevant content to my team, that wasn't as easy as it should be. So it actually should be more discoverable. It should be more prominent. And as Rand showed, that's actually what led to team spaces having such a big part of the navigation in the new design. And we decided other things needed to be less discoverable. Now what's interesting about this is this was just me and the PM deciding. That might sound sacrilege or wrong, but in reality we already had an impression of what we wanted to do. And because we had the brain trust, because we had other data sources, we weren't just making this from our opinion, we were just actualizing our opinion in a way that other people could actually comment on. And so again, what makes effective navigation is all of these three things, and that's what we considered when we started making various flow diagrams. So we started making a few more wireframes actually, and we made a flow diagram for each one. And we started showing these to people and getting their reaction. Next, we made a more detailed wireframe, something that people could actually imagine playing around with and using. And shortly after, we actually made interactive prototypes. We used Framer. This was the old version of Framer before they went all React. And so this is actually a clickable prototype. We had people perform tasks on it that did not use any engineering resources, just the designer, myself and the PM worked on to get even more feedback. So same thing, we asked people to perform tasks and do things so we can get more and more feedback, more and more data. Once it was ready to actually code and get started, we went through multiple rolled out phases. And I think this is something often teams really overlook. And I think it can be really powerful. So we made a very specific go-to-market plan that spanned over 2 or 3 months, which is really not usually how Amplitude does work. So we started off with phase 0, which was internal doc release. So like I mentioned, the brain trust, turning it on for our own employees. Then we moved into phase 1, which was the opt-in phase. We had this little thing at the top right, and we said, hey, try the new layout. And we started showing it actually only to a set of orgs that we knew were pretty happy with us, that wouldn't be like too pissed off. As the days went on, we actually expanded more and more orgs just to see that. So they weren't being forced into the new nav. They were just getting the opportunity to try it out. And we started talking to the people who said no. We started talking to the people who tried it, but then opted out to go back into the old one. Hey, why did you leave? Was there something broken for you? Were you missing something? And we talked to the people who just didn't want to bother with it at all. We could do this if we had feature flagging. And I think this is such a powerful thing to get designers to actually use data. The ability to flag a feature only for a certain group of users allows you to be far more experimental. So we actually built an in-house tool, but there's a lot of tools out there like Launch Darkly, Split, where you can flag a feature just for one customer, or just for one org if you're a B2B company. And you can really learn over time and learn one-to-one with the organizations you work closely with. All right, so that was the opt-in. We had this, but we also had another way to collect data. We just had this blank form when you were about to opt out, where we allowed people to just give us free-form text and feedback. And that's really the next lesson here about using a diverse set of data sources and collection techniques. Even though we're a product analytics company that uses event data, we always encourage using a diverse set of data sources and collection techniques. So in the past, for the last redesign, we actually used a tool called UserSnap. We actually use that for this one as well, where you can press feedback and you get this little blurb, and you can actually mark up the text. Now, I'm not sure how well this is in consumer apps, but for an app like ours, a B2B app, where people are spending hours a day, we got a lot of activity here. People literally circle things they didn't like. It was like a free envision prototype for your whole app. So really recommend this. In the past, we've tried a tool called Canny. So Canny is like kind of like Reddit, but for feature requests. So your own customers can request things, and other customers can see those requests and upload them. And then when you actually start working on them, you can mark them as in progress, and they all get emailed. And then once it's launched, you can actually mark it as launched. And it builds such a strong connection with your customer base because they know they're heard and they know where they can follow those changes. We've used AppQueue. There's a lot of tools like AppQueue. We've used it for NPS surveys in the past where not only do we collect this data, but we actually map it to the user data. So just like I was saying before, trying to understand users' feedback, we can actually measure any users who filled this out, and we can see their NPS score over time. So it goes right back into our Amplitude data. Finally, we even build tools ourselves sometimes. This thumbs up, thumbs down button is literally just firing an event in Amplitude. If you don't know what that means just means it's really easy to do. You can basically, with a single line of code, now make a small feedback system that just fires an event. Is it the best thing in the world? No, but it really helped us collect specific feedback on some this grid layout we were trying on. So using a diverse set of data. All right, so we had done phase 0 and 1. Then we moved into phase 2. And this was tricky because this was an opt-out beta, meaning that everybody had it turned down, but they could choose to kind of opt out of it. So the navigation had this little button here where you could choose to leave if you wanted. And so, same thing here. We collected a lot of feedback. We had metrics to ensure we were going into this with good feedback, etc. And then finally, phase 3, we did a forced rollout. And so at this point, a lot of people were already opting into the new nav. This was only, I think, for the 30% of users remaining. But we still wanted to make sure we did this right. And so what we did is, we decided the things that would hold us from releasing this to everyone forever. The things that would help us actually decide to kill the old nav was a set of behavioral metrics. What we did is we collected some of the key actions, and we saw the DAU usage before and after. Now, these numbers are obviously made up, but we did something very similar to this. And then we saw the percentage change for each. And we had to have tough conversations. Like something is now far more discoverable versus something that's much harder to find. Are we okay with that? Are we comfortable with that? And what this really leads to is the idea of having a strong North Star and core KPIs for your product. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. We have a lot of material online, and I won't do a great job with it. But at a high level, a North Star for any company is the key measure of success for the product team. And then KPIs are indicators of engagement and usage. And then finally, feature metrics are specific metrics around the feature. But whenever you launch something, it's hard to understand, is this improving our overall app? Now, if you have a North Star, that's great, because you can get an easy binary look at is it good or bad. If you have KPIs, you can get another level to understand really what's happening. I was talking to the team at YouTube, and they have a North Star. It's a number of videos watched. And then they have a set of KPIs that they closely monitor. And so for every feature they release, everyone on the PM team gets an automatic dashboard made for them around the North Star and KPI. So let me give you an example. I'm sure we're all familiar with the feature on YouTube where when a video finishes playing, another one starts, right? When you release that, what do you imagine their metrics were? I don't actually know the real metric, but you could imagine maybe their North Star, number of videos increased. But you could actually see their KPIs. Most definitely something would actually reduce, right? On the right panel, you have recommended videos. On the top nav, you might see a reduction in that because people are just letting the video play and go to the next one. So in reality, if you don't have this framework, things will cannibalize each other. Something will go down, something will go up. And by having this consistent report card, you and your team can consistently talk about whether or not something is actually better for your company. You can really measure your impact. And I've seen designers do this, and it makes such a huge impact on their value of the design. You can say, hey, that idea I had to make that button more prominent? Look at how that small change, or maybe big change, had such a big impact on all these things. Or, hey, maybe it didn't have an impact on our North Star, but look at what it did down the line to other features. So having a consistent report card is really important. Now again, we literally hold workshops on this. There's a lot of things online. What I recommend if you are really interested in this is to look at Google's Heart framework. They do a really good job to get people better understanding these metrics. Now, it's not the best thing. Some of them kind of overlap, but I think it's really the best framework to get started. It's a great way for your team to start having this discussion. And you can literally do this week. Just look up Google Heart, set a meeting with your team, and talk about what is really happiness for our customers. What engagement numbers do we need? What does adoption really mean for our product? And then finally, we went to launch. Our goal for the last launch, which was the final round where everybody was opted in, was to have only 20% of people opting out. We only had 3, which was great. But really, what matters is not those numbers, but how confident we were with the solution because we invested time in the learning loop. Because we had qualitative and quantitative. I hope you saw in this presentation that at no point did we just believe the number, or at no point did we just believe what users were saying. We used them in tandem to make the best decision. And that's what made us do this kind of long-ended approach that got us to a solution we were really happy with. And so, I'm just going to go over some of the things we touched on, and I'd love to answer questions and go into any of these in more detail if you guys would like. But like I said, always helpful to break down your analysis by cohort to better understand where that feedback is coming from. Be upfront when you're making a feature or starting something new, how you'll measure it, what you'll look at, what data you won't. Know that you can collect data even from qualitative research, and that can actually help you become more quantitatively driven. Use data to select the right research participants so you get a diverse set of opinions. You know that analytics is a team sport. See, my bad joke was seared into your mind, that's why I said that. Use feature flagging so you can release things over time and you can test them with specific customers. Use a diverse set of data sources, so not just interaction data, but survey data, NPS data, whatever fits your business. And then finally, choose a North Star as a team. Discuss what success really looks like. And choose a set of core KPIs so that you can understand changes in behavior for your product. Now, I really hope this was helpful. This is really just a peek. I know it was like a lot of information. You guys were, probably not ready for all of it. In grade 10, I had to choose between drama class or music class, and I chose drama class thinking maybe one day I'd be out in LA making a date. This is not exactly what I imagined. And I'm sure this is not what you guys imagined, having all this data, but I hope it's helpful to just start getting you realizing that there's a lot here for designers to use. And there's a lot of things that you guys can really benefit from.
Rick, there's a question back here.
Sure.
Yeah, so you said something really interesting, and that was about coding qualitative analysis. So if you can do like a de novo or thematic analysis, what's your process when you do that?
For what exactly? What's the process for coding?
Yeah, for coding the qualitative analysis. How do you go about that?
Sure. So we don't have a rigorous approach for this particular instance. There were some key actions we were looking for around how people are finding content and what people think certain buttons do. And so we just counted that up. I think on some rounds we only had 11, 12 participants, so the N wasn't high, but the numbers really helped back up what we were saying.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a well-researched thing, so I'd recommend looking up UX research, coding, and there might be far better ways to look at it than what I'm suggesting, but I'm just proposing the idea that it's helpful and it really did look
Yeah, no, it sounds really interesting. Thank you.
Other questions for Randall Terrace? Yes, it's Scott.
So, what we talked about today was you have a product in place, you have users. What if you're building a product from scratch, and in that process there are still so many things you're trying to figure out, so what do you recommend for those situations? How do we use data?
Sure, so there's definitely some metrics that are better with more data. Things like retention just need to kind of bake over time. And a lot of people recommend even looking at retention until we've found product market fit. But there's a lot you can get to just support what you're already seeing. So we work with a lot of design agencies who are making these first products for a lot of their customers, and they implement Amplitude from day zero, because they can even see in alpha launches, beta launches, what's being used, what's not. It's actually even a great way to find bugs at times. You might see with a small release you're launching to your alpha that you see a dive in a certain metric, and you might have never caught that otherwise. And so it's not exactly the same as when you have data, but there are a lot of techniques like bug catching, like I said with the coding thing, just having numbers to back up qualitative feedback. Also, selecting user participants. When we were doing the first redesign, that was like 3 years ago, we had only two customers. I think we had 3 people from each customer use the new redesign. And of that 6, I found one user that was using it much more than someone else. They're using a certain feature in a way I didn't expect. So I had better questions to ask them than I would have if I didn't have that data. So it's always better to have more data than less. You just have to be careful how you use it. Is that
Right, so I could still put I don't have to worry about statistical significance. I could still put the data in Amplitude and
Oh
see
yeah, for
that.
sure. Yeah. Amplitude, we have various SDKs for iOS, Android, you can just go in, but we also have an HTTP endpoint. So anything that can hit the internet can essentially hit in Amplitude. Yeah.
Thank you.
My question actually relates to that, so do you do this analysis? Because even if I see designers actually using data, the club data, look at it, the just make assumptions, and if you use problem statistics, you should find out it would be the reverse of what they're assuming, so it's very important to, keep that in mind.
For sure, no. That is something we definitely need to do more of. We have lots of designs that haven't gotten shipped around incorporating more aspects of statistical significance directly into the UX. We do have it in some areas, for example, in funnel analysis, in our A/B testing view, we do have some score of statistically significant. I will say though, there are better ways to approach that if you're designing an analytics product, which is probably just me, random Meredith in this room, which is really like, do you teach people the technique, or does the program already kind of account for it? And so chart types like RAM show, that shows kind of the difference between the engagement of power users. A lot of the ways we build charts are ways to get people to just think about features holistically without having to worry about those specific details. But just like you said, yes, it is absolutely important, and you can't jump the gun and just call something done when it's not. So that's why we've kind of added it more to that area, but it definitely should be more in other places.
How does the team at Amplitude quantify qualitative feedback?
You want to take it?
Because it's not really like what your tool does necessarily. Right?
Yeah, we don't really use quantify qualitative feedback, mostly, except the nav example that Tara showed.
Yeah. How do we do qualitative in general, or how do we?
But yeah, I mean, like when you guys do interviews, you get qualitative feedback because
Yeah. To me, that's kind of more of like a product development question of how do you approach building a product in general. And I say that because that kind of answers how we do it. So at teams at Amplitude work in small pods. Every pod has a user you're building.